expect to see him an oblique injury. He will not play today. He is officially inactive. He was listed as doubtful a couple of days ago with that oblique injury. I know that that's the baseball injury du jour, but it affects the football players as well, as you can see here. So Zach Charbonnet steps into the starting role for the Seattle Seahawks. We know what Charbonnet can do from a rushing standpoint, a receiving standpoint, from a power and quickness standpoint, so they're confident in him. They've got Kenny McIntosh. He will be RB2 for them. And then George Holani, the undrafted rookie free agent, who will step into an active role today. He was called up from the practice squad. So the Seahawks hopeful to get Kenneth Walker back in the near future and have these guys in his place today do well. One other injury note, and this one actually just got updated moments ago, Mike Yam. We told you earlier this morning on game day morning that the Eagles were still evaluating A.J. Brown and would determine, hopefully in time for Brown owners to make fantasy decisions at 1 p.m. They have done that. A.J. Brown now downgraded to out for tomorrow night's game against the Falcons with that hamstring issue. He felt some tightness on Friday, didn't practice on Saturday. Brown now officially out. So unlike Christian McCaffrey last week when we found out on Monday night, at least you get a chance to adjust your lineups now.
Make some of those adjustments. By the way, start sits coming up a little bit later. Mike Florio is going to be joining us. Mike G, you're the best man. I've always appreciate the insight.
Look out, hey.
Lately, I haven't been feeling quite like myself.
Aaron Rodgers, he's not limited in any way. How well will he play?
You're going to do it, you better do it damn well.
Here's one. Passes dropped by Lazard.
Really?
The frustration immediately for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I think this is not going to go well.
And down goes Rodgers.
Oh, geez. Your Pro Bowl years were over.
Play action from Rodgers. The pass is picked off.
You weren't thinking.
And you just tell he's not himself.
At 40 years old, you just don't move as well.
It was over by halftime.
It's like Matthew McConaughey said, every year I'm in the league, I get older, they stay the same age.
Hang in there.
All right. Aaron Rodgers, following that week 1 loss, the numbers, Cynthia, there's a response here. Rodgers undefeated in these situations. The number's crazy. The one that stands out to me, passing touchdowns to interceptions, 14-1. And I know we got a little bit of a recap of what transpired, but just to reset for you, Monday night, not a whole lot. Jets offense limited to a time of possession, 21-20. That's the lowest time of possession of any start in Rodgers' career. They get a Titans team who had Chicago in week 1, 24 unanswered points. Sarah Walsh is in Nashville, one of my favorites. A little bit of a preview for this one. All right, Sarah, break this down for me. Aaron Rodgers, what is he expecting to see against... Oh. Nothing better than a little live TV.
Hi, Mike. Sorry about that. We just had some guests on. I got thrown when you said one of my favorites, and I didn't know if you meant Nashville or me.
Well, I've never been to Nashville, so clearly I'm talking about you. We were neighbors back in the day. Of course, Sarah, you're one of my favorites. So if you want to bring your special guest on at the end of this hit, that is great. But let's focus here on Aaron Rodgers. What do we expect to see from him against a Titans team that's got to figure out some ways to come up with some defensive checks for this offense?
Well, you touched on it, Yam. I think that you look at what they did against the Niners, and I think everybody understands that the Niners are the class of the NFC. But this is a Titans defense, and you mentioned it, really good last week. They didn't allow the Bears to score an offensive touchdown. They allowed a total of 148 yards in that game. That was the lowest in the league a week ago, and now the challenge is Aaron Rodgers and this offense that's still looking to find its rhythm. Garrett Wilson pointed out the obvious this week, saying, look, when you get out here on Sunday, you can't simulate that in training camp, and they have not had a lot of time with Rodgers, obviously, in game situations. That was his first full game with the team. Now, Wilson was targeted 11 times in that game. He said he would like to target him more, obviously, because with big-name receivers like that, they always want more. Rodgers spread the ball around just to 5 people, and he said that's not really typical of him. So look to see him try to spread that ball around more. And the other thing is they want to get the ground game going. Breece Hall called it just a tick off. Offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett talked about the fact that they want to build the pass game on the run game. So expect to see that, or at least them attempt to try to get that going early on, Yam.
Well, look, Sarah is actually one of my favorites.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. But ultimately, I'm looking
Guys,
at this.
I'll come on this show all the time. Like, if that's how my TMs are going to go.
We're fighting over
just
who's your favorite.
Just keep me on here the next hour.
Perfect. But the run defense for the Jets really was the cause and catalyst of why you didn't see the run game going or that those stats that Sarah talked about. You're watching Jordan Mason just run all over this defense. And they said, the coach even admitted, he said, they're going to run on us until we figure out how to stop it. This is not a good matchup from that standpoint because the O-line for the Titans is considerably better, and they've got great running backs there in Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. So when you're looking at the opportunity here, they're going to have to shore up the run if they're going to have a chance to kind of get that Aaron Rodgers number to 6-0, which is, to me, the most amazing stat on all of that because he's won 5 of his second week games after a loss.
Yeah, by the way, you know, Sarah used to have these, I wasn't joking, we legitimately were neighbors. She used to have epic
I was her neighbor too.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Listen.
We weren't. All right, we have to unpack this at some point off air. I had no idea about this. I thought I was breaking news to you.
No.
Sarah, enjoy the game today. You expect a text with the 3 of us.
Yes, we're fighting over who is thinks you're their favorite the most. But it's fine. It's good.
We'll text you later.
I don't know why you're making me sign off here, guys. I just hang out for the rest of the afternoon.
All right, look, you pull up a seat. We'll get once again, your special guest with us a little bit later. Sarah Walsh in Nashville, always delivering for us. Meanwhile, a week ago, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, didn't anticipate a huge contract for Dak Prescott minutes before kickoff against Cleveland. That's exactly what happened. It was a mega deal. They get the win against the Browns. Now they get to stay home, and they get the Saints. No one better to speak to about this squad than... So I just said Sarah Walsh was one of our favorites, but I actually mean this for Jane Slater as well. Jane, you were also in that conversation. So, all right, give me the lay of the land here. What do I need? Oh, okay, yeah, you can fist pump. All right, what do I need to know about this matchup from a Dallas perspective?
Well, I will tell you, it's been giving plenty of glitterati here today before we even get into the matchup. We've got Mike Tyson here along with Tom Brady. We just did an interview with Jake Paul. They're going to have that big heavyweight matchup here in November. So lots of excitement. But I did think it was kind of interesting when you consider that you've got these 2 heavyweights that are going to be fighting here at AT&T Stadium. A lot of people are looking at this offense from the Saints and this team, and I think maybe glossing over them a little bit. I would caution you not to do that. That's because, look, the Saints have always had a very good roster of offensive players. Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, your Swiss Army knife, Carr needing him to take that next step. Talking to these players, and after that game against the Panthers last week in week 1 where they put up 40 points, they were scoring early and often. The secret sauce right now is Clint Kubiak. Why is that a secret sauce against the Cowboys? Well, remember, he was the passing game coordinator for the 49ers last year and the year before. The Cowboys found it hard to defend against them sometimes. And so it is going to be very, very interesting. Even Tyrann Mathieu talked about it. This Clint Kubiak offense is more modern. It's more up to date. It does space creating formations. And so just unique opportunities for mismatches. And so I think that's something we've maybe overlooked heading into this game.
Yeah, Jane, you know, look, there's all the X's and O's stuff that you have covered on social media. As you were given that hit, we were flashing some video, Mike Tyson and Tom Brady. Go for the entertainment.
So cool.
I would love to have been there to hear what that conversation was like. Jane, always appreciate the insights that you bring to the table. God, Mike Tyson. I mean, that's...
Yeah,
it's a heck of a
serious
conversation. Time for Road Warriors, presented by Courtyard Marriott. All right, the Saints team, they balled out in week 1 on the offensive side. I mean, like a blur. It was just touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Is this the Saints team that we can expect?
I don't know. The number I want to point out here is 3. That's the total number of dropbacks that Derek Carr was pressured on. One of them went for a deep touchdown pass as well. I don't think that's going to be the case today. See Parsons, Micah. Because this was not a good matchup for them in terms of showing us who they are. We saw a lot of fun. We saw a lot of Alvin Kamara running, but you're not going to be able to get the same sort of push against this Mike Zimmer Dallas defense. I'm curious to see. We didn't really learn a ton about them against Cleveland either, but you do know one thing for sure, and that's that Micah Parsons, who leads the league in pressure percentage since the beginning of last season, like this is a guy who's coming for your soul.
Yeah, you know, we played last week here on Game Day Preview some comments from Cam Jordan with Derek Carr, who was talking about Clint Kubiak.
Yeah.
And I think I referenced it on the show. David Carr's brother, who's one of our friends and colleagues here at NFL Media, he sort of said, like, hey, that relationship, man, is big time. And you saw it on display in week number 1. All right, still to come here on Game Day Preview. Yeah, Jared Goff and company. That was one of the best games we saw. Yeah, dude's an absolute monster. You catch that game and every other game on Game Center right after us here on the NFL channel. And by the way, nice little taste of Lions football still to come.
with the first pick, quarterback.
Touchdown, LA!
Great job. I woke up feeling dangerous.
And the drought is over.
I know their heart's broken today.
The former #1 overall pick traded.
Goff pays it off with a dart. Let's go.
Mayfield on his 4th team in the last year and a half. The Buccaneers are in the playoff.
Detroit, stand up. You waited for this.
Let's go. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Jared Goff delivers against his former team.
3 touchdown passes by Baker Mayfield.
Great job.
To be able to come in and be myself, they've allowed me to do that.
Hey, Detroit, you're going back to the NFC Championship game.
Hey, you're good enough for Detroit, Jim.
Yeah, maybe a little redemption here from the Bucs' perspective. Remember, Lions taking out Tampa Bay last year in the postseason. Baker Mayfield balled out in week #1, led all quarterbacks, 4 passing touchdowns, and the best passer rating in the NFL in week #1. Got a battle of former #1 picks as well in Goff and Baker Mayfield. To Detroit we go. Our Stacey Dales is with us right now. All right, Stacey, I know that there's some moxie that Baker brings to the table. From a Lions defensive perspective, what are they keeping track of to try to keep this guy in check?
Yeah, Yam, great question. I think they know him well. Obviously, they saw Baker Mayfield in a couple of games last season. And by the way, I have to tell you, I was just talking to some Bucs personnel, Yam, and they said it feels like yesterday that we were here trying to advance to the NFC Championship, which didn't happen in the divisional round. So there is a revenge factor. But for Baker Mayfield, these Lions, they told me, and I spoke with Ali McNeil from their defensive line, he said Baker keeps the basics the basics. So as exciting as he is, and with the moxie that he really exudes at the quarterback position, he's playing the game very simply, which has allowed things to open up, as we saw in week 1 with his 4 touchdowns, his monster passer rating. It was nearly perfect. I think it was right around a 146, which is all about quarterback efficiency. And so for the Detroit Lions, they want a lot of pressure, as you can imagine, a lot of power and push up the middle. McNeil told me, listen, he's not the biggest, tallest quarterback, I should say. So we want to disrupt his vision and see if we can bat some balls down. But after the first game, Baker Mayfield playing really good football and already a really good relationship with his new OC, Liam Cohen.
Yeah. By the way, 7 different offensive coordinators now in 7 seasons for Baker
Crazy.
Mayfield. It is wild. And by the way, I mean, Jared Goff, talk about weird stories on one sideline for a quarterback in Baker. Goff's career obviously has taken plenty of twists and turns, but we saw him and his team get a win in week #1 in overtime. I thought it was the best game of week #1 against the Rams. But from a defensive standpoint, there's so many options that Goff has. So where's the focus for the Bucs defense?
Well, the focus for the Bucs defensively is the quarterback. It always is. When I spoke to Jordan Whitehead, they recognize that Jared Goff is a pure pocket passer. He is a traditional pocket passer. But he also does a really good job, Whitehead told me, with his look-offs, to where he's not staring down receivers. And so there's been an extensive studying of the tape when it comes to Jared Goff. They really respect his 9 years in the National Football League. He is a pro's pro, if you will. And so they come in here with a lot of reverence and respect. And also, I would tell you, Miam, with a decimated secondary, Antoine Winfield Jr. is not going to play in this football game. And so there are some questions they're going to have to answer on their back end if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But ultimately, for the Detroit Lions, when you reference that week 1 game and that overtime drive, listen, they didn't have their best offensive performance. That final drive was exceptional. And so I think for the Lions, they were very happy to come away with the win on Sunday Night Football and are looking to put together a better offensive, more consistent offensive performance in this game. But it's always hard, as you know, Mike, because Todd Bowles is going to throw everything, pardon the cliche, in the kitchen sink at you. When I spoke with Sam Laporta, tight end for the Lions, he told me it's kind of, pick your poison with this defense. You got to figure out your rhythm within the game as it flows to figure out all those different looks that Bowles is throwing at you.
Stacey, you got a front row seat for what could be one of the best games of the weekend. We'll have more on this matchup coming up in just a bit. Enjoy yourself, Stace. All right, let's focus our attention on Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, 273 passing yards, had over 100 yards rushing on the ground, but it was a week 1 loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. The guy who was actually at that game our friend who I miss dearly, who was sitting next to me a week ago. That is Steve White, who joins us right now. Steve, always good to see you, my friend. I made reference to it. You were at that week 1 loss, and this is an opportunity for this team to rebound here. How do we get some of these offensive pieces like Mark Andrews, like Derrick Henry going?
Well, first off, Mike, I miss you dearly, my brother. I'll be with you in studio on Monday and next week. Well, look, that's a good point. Lamar Jackson had 57 touches of Baltimore's 74 offensive plays, 16 runs, 41 passes. That is too much of a load, especially this early in the season. So the plan, and speaking with some Ravens folks, is to get Derrick Henry and that run game involved. Now, when we talk about getting Derrick Henry involved, let's not think about him getting 25, 30 carries. John Harbaugh, the head coach, said this week, they did not bring him here to do that. So it could be a good mixture of Derrick Henry and Justice Hill to get the run game going. But they also have to get tight end Mark Andrews going. Mike, he only had 2 targets last week. Now, a lot of that dealt with the extra attention that the Chiefs were giving him. So Isaiah Likely, who is the biggest benefactor, the fellow tight end who had 9 catches, told me this week everyone else has got to get going early to get the attention off of Andrews so he can get back to his Pro Bowl type production.
Steve, you know, I know you had an opportunity to also talk to Max Crosby. Saw that a little bit earlier, and I know this is going to be a tough task to try to contain Lamar Jackson, but it is time for Who Scores presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I make reference to Lamar Jackson because he did run for 122 yards in week number 1. Derrick Henry, who Steve just talked about, maybe gets into the end zone. Did have a touchdown against Kansas City. So I think from that perspective, Steve, tell me exactly who you think is going to be scoring in this game.
Oh, who I think is going to be scoring in this game? You know what? I forget who I told you. Who I think is
well,
be
it's Likely, which,
oh, no,
by the way,
I didn't.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
It's going to be Isaiah Likely.
There we go.
I was getting there. Yeah, look, Isaiah Likely, you know, I told you he was a big benefactor in week 1. He is now a part of their offense. I mean, he's somebody, he gets downfield, outside, inside. I think Isaiah Likely, the Raiders are going to be so consumed with trying to stop this run game. They're going to be in 2 tight end sets. I think Isaiah Likely is somebody who will be able to spring free.
All right, Rams and Cardinals, in terms of getting into the end zone, James Conner, I know you like him. Why?
Because that's what he does. He got a touchdown last week against Buffalo. Mike, he has 30 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons, no fewer than 7. And when it comes to this Rams run defense, that is something that they're still figuring out. So again, I think James Conner is a nice pick to get into the end zone, whether he's running it or catching it.
Yeah, look, Rams up front banged up right now, but the Cardinals showed some toughness in that week 1 loss against the Bills.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Steelers and Broncos, Pittsburgh, 6 field goals. Didn't get into the end zone, but you like Justin Fields in this one.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? I mean, he's somebody who's getting more of an expanded role. He gets to foil the Russell Wilson Bowl. And just the way Arthur Smith, now that he saw how Fields operated in a game, is probably going to allow him to use his legs. You saw some designed RPOs and scheduled runs. I think that's going to be the case more and more because we did see Najee Harris and Jalen Warren and Cordero Patterson, Arthur Smith's favorite player, get some nice runs. And I think sometimes you're going to see Justin Fields put the ball in their belly, pull it out, and take off around the end zone and take around the end and get into the end zone.
Yeah, Steve, you're the best man. Enjoy today's game. Safe travels. I will see you tomorrow night as you and I give it a go on Monday Night Football as soon as it's done on NFL Network. Meanwhile, DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns this season, and this week new customers can bet $5, pocket $250 in bonus bets instantly, and get 1 month off of NFL Plus Premium. Download the app and use promo code GAME when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. All right, still to come here, and I know we touched on this matchup, but Mike Evans, an absolute baller. More on Lions and Bucks. That's around the corner. Not to mention, Thomas Davis is going to be joining us. We'll jump around and find out how the heck is Bryce Young going to look this week.
Rodgers ready for the shotgun snap. He's hit from behind and set in midfield.
Ooh,
Thomas Davis.
I don't know how he got there because it was Lindsley who hit TD and almost knocked him down, but the strength of TD keeps his balance and makes a tackle in the backfield.
The play pass, and it's intercepted. Picked off Carolina, the 45-yard line, a leaping grab made by Thomas Davis.
Way to get up in the air, Thomas Davis.
Drew Brees, hands under center, turns to the near sideline, fakes a handoff sack at the 10-yard line. Thomas Davis ate him alive.
Oh, my goodness.
The throw is wobbly, intercepted Thomas Davis.
That is a beautiful play, but that is a veteran who knows what to do when he's out there.
My Lord, I think Drew Brees is still thinking about that hit, TD, that you put on him. A former Walter Payton Man of the Year, 3-time Pro Bowler, one of the best dudes. Thomas Davis is with us. TD, great to see you, my friend. I hope you pulled over. All right, break this down for me. I know you've been asked a million times about Bryce Young, but explain to me how this team sets him up for success this season, considering what we saw in Week 1.
You know, in Week 1, I don't think that there was an indication of what this football team is and what they're capable of doing at all. But, you know, Bryce Young, you see the process for him going through everything. I just think that having this new offensive line, in which I feel like they were the most consistent group of the past week, I just feel like that they're going to do a much better job this week at home than they did against the Saints. Because when you look at the way that Bryce was playing in the preseason, I just felt like it just showed so much growth and so much potential that we didn't get to see in that first game.
All right, so you saw some positive strides there. Meanwhile, this division, tough to navigate. TD, the Bucs have owned it the last 3 years. Are they still the team to beat?
The Bucs right now, I think, are one of the teams to beat. I was a little surprised by the way that Atlanta went out and played. I thought that they were going to be a much better team. But right now, if you look at the way the Saints played against us, I feel like they're the Super Bowl contenders the way we made them look.
Wow. All right. Well, the Bucs clearly in the thick of things. You mentioned Atlanta, who obviously struggled in week number 1. What about specifically this Saints team? What makes them so dangerous in your mind?
You know, I honestly don't think that this Saints team is that good. I was actually making a joke because of how poorly we played against them. But, you know, I just think that Derek Carr looks a lot more comfortable than he did last year for the Saints. And the way that he's going out and operating this offense, their ability to utilize Alvin Kamara and getting the ball to Taysom Hill and utilizing those weapons, I just feel like makes them a much more dangerous team. You can see the Derek Carr going deep right there. Rasheed, one of the most dynamic players in this league as a returner and as a deep threat, running a 4.3 40. I just think that he adds a different element to that game. And once they're able to get Chris Olave going, that makes the Saints a dangerous team.
Yeah, I think some Saints fans might be hitting you up on your social media, so you could be prepared for some of those mentions to you. TD, we miss you, man. I miss looking at your suits inside of our locker room. Drive safe and enjoy the games today as we focus our attention now to Detroit with the lyrical genius.
Sad finding this 2024 NFL draft. Let's go. Caleb with the Chi-Town very first pick. We knew that when Justin Fields got traded out the pit. Dan Quinn with the number 2 pick took a dual threat. Drake May and Coach Mayo got New England groove back. Like father, like son, next 2 picks. Big shoes to fill, but if the shoe fits, hey, Marvin and Kyler could be like Peyton and Marvin. John protected the Chiefs, Joe protecting the Chargers. New York got a brand new neighbor from Louisiana. Titans got the first player out of Alabama.
Absolutely tremendous. Let's go, a draft recap. You got to follow him on social media. Chef Geach, dude, you deliver in such a dramatic way, man. Love watching what you do during the season as well. But let's start with just the videos in general, my friend. Like, take me through this creative process, because I'm telling you, the lyrics are amazing.
Oh, man, it's wonderful. It's me and my guy, Roger, man. He actually came up with the whole idea for me to recap the NFL seasons. And we just get to it, man. It's a difficult process, though, man. Monday, I got to watch to the last minute, and then I'm writing all Monday night, and then Tuesday, I'm recording it, and we're recording the whole recap and dropping it Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening.
So you got to just come out to the West Coast where we're watching the games all the time, every single day anyway. So we'll help you with some of that prep here. But we know, and obviously there's a reason why, you know, the love that you have for the city of Detroit, which is why we had asked you here to put together some of those draft recaps. And obviously you're doing the season thing. This city, this team has, I think, captured the imagination of the entire country. What do we need to know about the passion that the fans there have for the Lions?
Oh, man, it runs deep. We've been here through it all, man, through thick and thin, and we've been riding with them ever since. So, just the win now and what it means to the city, man, like, we are here. Like, we are here to stay. We believe. We ready to go to the Super Bowl, and it's like, it's changing lives, man. Like, literally, I didn't think a football team could ever do something like this, man. It's literally changing lives.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see, and like I said, I think for a lot of NFL fans, they're like our second favorite team in the league. Are you cool to do some game picks with me? Because I know you do that on your social accounts. You good?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, let's do a little rapid fire. So, Bucks and Lions here. I know you're going to roll with the Lions, but tell me why.
I got the Lions winning this game. I don't know if Whitfield is out today, but regardless of the fact, we're revamped. We got a brand new defense, brand new defensive line. Secondary was our problem last year, and it's not the problem this year. So I got us having a big game. Sam Laporta gonna have a big game today.
Winfield, by the way, not playing in this game. Our Stacey Dales gave us that news a short time ago. Bears and Texans, who do you like?
Ooh, if it was a healthy Bears team, I would really like this game, but I got to go with the Texans, man. They look strong coming out. I think the Bears need a little bit more chemistry, a little bit of time to work with each other, but I got the Texans pulling that one out.
All right, Niners and Vikings. Minnesota? No.
I love Kevin O'Connell. Like, I really do. He's a great coach, and he's just been dealing with so many injury problems. Got to go with the 49ers on this one, man. They're going to pull that one out. Without CMC, it's still a great team.
Yeah, Mason obviously balled out on Monday Night Football. Colts and Packers. No Jordan Love. I feel like this might be a layup for you.
Yeah, straight through, man. And actually, the Colts is my sleeper team. I know they lost to the Texans last week, but I actually got them winning the South. Actually, so I think the Colts is gonna pull this off. I think they'll cover the spread. It'll be an easy game.
All right, before we let you get going, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think you can handle this. You got a little freestyle for me on your game day preview experience?
Okay. Go put me on the spot. All right, Mike. Let me see. Chef Geach and Mike Yams, this is game day preview. Week 1 was fun. Now we headed into week 2. The Colts versus the Packers. Can Matt LaFleur get it done, or will Indy walk into Green Bay showing them tough love? My Lions started the season same way we did the playoffs. 2-0, Rams, Bucks. Dan Campbell and Jay Goff. Can't wait to see the Niners compete against the Vikings. Will Caleb forget last week or remember the Titans? 30 minutes left until week 1 is old news. Chef Geach and Yams, this here better than soul food.
Are you kidding me? Let's go, man. I feel like when they do the sequel for 8 Mile, you got to be in that one. That absolutely amazing, dude.
For sure. Put me up for audition, man. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. And if you get in, you got to figure out a way for me to get in on that one as well. We're a combo. We're a package deal for the sequel of that one. Hey, seriously, man, you're awesome. I encourage everyone to check out your videos on social media. I was super excited that you were going to be on with us, man, and you did not disappoint. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, man. This was a great experience, man. Great way to start off my week 2. Let's get it. Go Lions.
And I know you're going to be watching all of these matchups. Looking forward to that next video that's going to be coming out this week. Speaking of the Lions, that guy's an absolute stud. Amon-Ra St. Brown delivering. Does he get it done, though, against Tampa Bay today? Well, back here on Game Day Preview, we got a insight on Lamar Jackson, what we can expect from him today against the Raiders. Baltimore trying to avoid their first 0-2 start since 2015. Reigning MVP ran for $122 against Kansas City in that loss. We'll find out what he does against Vegas at home. All right, I know you're trying to work through some of these lineups. No one better to get you the insight. Michael F. Flory, you can catch him on NFL Fantasy Live during the week on NFL Network, not to mention the article on NFL.com. Start him, sit him if you're in a dilemma. Mike, I know you got everyone covered here. Let's start with the quarterbacks. You got Lamar Jackson. Obviously, you're going to go and play him. Justin Herbert, I caught your article. Are we starting or sitting Justin Herbert?
I know some people might see the matchup against the Carolina Panthers and be like, I want to start Justin Herbert. But to me, this feels like a trap game. The Panthers struggle mightily against the run. We know the Chargers want to establish the run as they did in week 1. Plus, Herbert threw one deep pass last week. Over half of his pass attempts were short yardage passes. So unless he throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns, I think this is going to be another floor game for Justin Herbert. He's not running with the foot issue. I know the matchup looks great on paper. I know I'm wearing Panthers blue, but I think this is a week to sit Justin Herbert if you have another option.
I can't imagine having another option, by the way. If you drafted Justin Herbert, I feel like you got to roll with him. Derek Carr threw 3 touchdowns. So this is a little bit of a bold move on your part, Mike, and I like it. I don't hate it, which also makes me think about some of these running backs, because you name-checked Dobbins as well. As I go through some of the names that you have here, and yes, Dobbins is on this list. Tony Pollard, we'll see what he can do. Brian Robinson against the Giants, although not a huge shocker considering what we saw the G-men do defensively. But it sounds like you're buying Dobbins, and that performance from week 1, you think he's real the rest of the way, right?
Yeah, I was a J.K. Dobbins doubter coming into the season, coming off of the torn Achilles. But in week 1, I mean, I have to admit I'm wrong after just 1 week. 60% of the snaps last week, he was used on passing downs, 2 breakaway runs. And the thing is, he looks really good as a runner, and Gus Edwards, not so much. He was stuck in the mud. Kamani Vidal, who I had high hopes for there, was a healthy scratch. And the thing is, the Panthers struggle so much against the run that it's possible that Dobbins and Edwards could both eat this week, but I will take my shot on the more explosive J.K. Dobbins and hope for another long run or 2 out of him this week.
Mike, as far as the stardom or the sit-ems at the wide receiver spot, some big-name wide receivers that you think should stay on the bench. Certainly Calvin Ridley's name pops for me on that side, as well as Cortland Sutton against the Steelers. Jameson Williams, I thought he was one of the best stories in week number 1. You like him against this Tampa Bay team?
Yeah, I do. And I get it if you have to start some of those sits now with seemingly every wide receiver being ruled out in week 2. But if you have Jameson Williams, I think you play him. He saw elite usage in week 1. 9 targets, 130 air yards. That was more than every other Lion player combined when it comes to the air yards. And what I love, he was the first read for Jared Goff on 43% of his throws. So he is a part of this offense that I think is here to stay. I know we haven't seen a floor game yet. He might be a little bit a boom or bust kind of weekly play, but we see the ceiling is so high and the matchup is really good. The Bucs really struggle against wide receivers, so fire up Jameson Williams.
Yeah, the boom is big time when Williams is right. Meanwhile, it's time for Who's Eating Good, and it is presented by Applebee's. Can we lean towards another wide receiver for this one?
I think so. I had high hopes for Malik Neighbors last week. It didn't work out, but this is the week. Look, he only had 6 targets last week. Despite that, he was the only Giants pass catcher to put up a positive EPA, meaning that when they threw him the ball, they gained value. When they threw everyone else the ball, they lost value. And now he gets the Commanders, who have allowed the most yards and touchdowns to wide receivers last season. They just got torched for 4 touchdowns against wide receivers in week 1. We're hearing chatter out of New York, like, how are you not throwing him the ball more already? I think the coaches are going to watch the tape. They're going to hear all the talk. They're going to make adjustments, and they are going to get Malik Neighbors the ball this week, especially considering his college quarterback is on the other sideline. This is personal for Malik Neighbors. I still think he is a very, very strong start in week 2, despite what we got out of him in week 1.
Yeah, that Giants offense, and Mike, you know this, man. I'm a Giants fan. That was tough sledding. It was tough to watch that performance. Hey, I hope you have time for a bonus one for you, because it was significant news this week in fantasy. Christian McCaffrey not going to be playing. We did see Jordan Mason ball out on Monday Night Football. I know if you have him, you obviously wanted to pick up Mason, but realistically, can we expect those types of performances from this dude the next 4 games?
I don't want to say he's going to give you CMC type numbers, but it's very, very possible because there is no coach that I trust more when it comes to getting the most out of their running attack than Kyle Shanahan. Plus, there's still Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. So there's so much that you have to game plan for defensively that I don't think teams are going to come in here and be like, we have to stop Jordan Mason, just like they do when they say that about CMC. So yeah, the floor is certainly lower. The ceiling is lower than CMC. But if you picked up Jordan Mason, I don't see any way you are not starting him in week 2, given he dominated the volume. I think other running backs in San Fran combined played 2 snaps. Yeah. You have to get him in, at least while it was still a competitive game. You have to get Jordan Mason in your starting lineup.
Yeah, 2 other factors to consider. Trent Williams played, I think it was 65 consecutive snaps in this game, and we questioned that conditioning because of the holdout. He's going to be better the rest of the way. And last time I checked, the San Francisco 49ers did it against a really good Jets team. Mike, you're the best, man. Always appreciate your insights, my friend.
Thank you.
Always delivering. By the way, I know we loved up a whole lot of wide receivers. We didn't even mention this dude. Yeah, he's definitely a start. CeeDee Lamb, what can he do today in Big D against the Saints? We'll find out.
have respect for the guy on the other side of the field.
Every time we play each other, it's a heck of a football game.
Pat is one of one. It's always a big challenge going up against him.
I'm not saying his name, brother. I'm sorry. We don't like them. They don't like us.
Burrow with his third touchdown of the day. Unreal.
We match up pretty well. We're built to beat them.
After the Chiefs led in this game, the Bengals have won the AFC Championship.
We'll see y'all in Burrowhead. Let that sink in your mouth.
Coffin nails, Bengals.
It's overtime. Let's go.
Mahomes now fires it late. Touchdown! Oh, baby. The Lamar Hunt Trophy is back in Kansas City.
Many more, dog. Don't ever disrespect Arrowhead Stadium.
Pat, who?
This is going to be a great matchup, and I know what some fans are thinking. Well, Cincinnati didn't ball out in week number 1. Yeah, but Joe Burrow gets up for Patrick Mahomes in such a meaningful way. Burrow's trying to be the first quarterback to defeat Patrick Mahomes 4 times. Now, not an easy task by any measure when you're talking about one of the best to ever do it in Patrick Mahomes, and yet I think there's a part of us that sit here and just wonder, like, hey, can he actually get it done? You see some of the stats here, Cynthia. Like, is this fool's gold to reference some history here heading into a game where, hey, roster's a little different?
Well, I could find you some other history that says that the Bengals over the past 4 seasons are 1-8 in weeks 1 and 2 combined. So there's a lot of different reference point we can look to as to why we're seeing what we're seeing. But one of the things I want to point out is that Chris Jenkins isn't even playing again. That's their first-round pick. This is a trend. This is their defensive player. He's supposed to help kind of fill the hole that DJ Reader, who's now in Detroit, kind of occupies. So I'm looking at the defense, and it's so interesting because while we knew there was a lot of, like, craziness on the offense, the holding in and whatever, T. Higgins now not being held, we thought the defense was going to show up a little bit better, especially those safeties. You know, they brought Von Bell back, Geno Stone's there now. But they didn't. It just was the whole thing. From start to finish, it just looked like completely out of sync.
Yeah, it did not look good, to your point, and I don't know how many people would have anticipated that the Patriots going to win.
A lot of people lost their survivor pools.
I was just thinking that.
Not me.
I know. I was like, do I go there? Do I not go there? I'm glad you did.
Seats.
But we know what people are doing out there. Time for Rookie Watch. It is presented by New Era. All right, when I think, and Michael F. Florio just told us a little bit about this. Malik Neighbors, we know, is a baller. His former quarterback, obviously, in Jaden Daniels on the other side. You tell me, I feel like Mike said Neighbors is the guy to roll with here. Are you doing the same?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. If you look at this Washington defense, last week they allowed the third most yards on plays with pre-snap motion. You know who knows that? Mike Kafka. You know who else knows that? Brian Dable, and then Daniel Jones. This is an opportunity for Daniel Jones to get a little bit more back on track. You could even play Devin Singletary here if you're looking for a running back. Maybe you need a little help in that position with all the injuries. But ultimately, Malik Neighbors, it's not going to, more impressive is a funny word because I think both of them will have impressive days. But maybe because we expect the Giants that we saw, it was not great. But even in a not great showing, Malik Neighbors did actually lead all rookies in receiving yards for week 1. So, hey, man, like there's things to be happy about, even though those jerseys are, maybe the thing we can be happiest about is they're not wearing those ugly jerseys.
Oh, my Lord. I know. Steve Wedge, who was sitting next to us last week.
Montreal, anyone?
Giving it to me.
Montreal hockey, anyone? No?
I'm with you there, and it wasn't great.
No.
You know, one game that we haven't talked a ton about, and I would love to get your take on it, Niners and Vikings. And I know we did the fantasy perspective here, but is Minnesota maybe better than we think?
I think we underrated Minnesota just because I felt like there was like negative storylines, right? Like, oh, they lost out on Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
And, oh, then J.J. McCarthy goes down. But they got Sam Darnold for a reason. And, I mean, this guy came out swinging. He was 12 for 12 on his first 12 passes.
Yeah, I'm aware.
He was perfect against the blitz of the Giants. Like, he threw 2 touchdowns against it. But the thing that actually I found instructive, those are all nice stats, but the thing that I found instructive was if you look to see what happened when he was blitzed, the strategy changed. So on blitz plays, he got rid of the ball in 2.46 seconds. Non-blitz plays, it was 3.02 seconds, meaning the strategy was like, hey, Sam, can you see this blitz? The answer was yes. He picked it up, he figured it out, and he made the necessary adjustments. Whereas that's something where, you know, you can actually roll that forward into this week and say that's something that could carry over against a defense that's like coming for his soul and Fred Warner, who isn't going to let them run as well.
Yeah, and by the way, he's not a rookie. You know, they rolled J.J. McCarthy. I don't know if you can necessarily have that game plan.
That's the thing that I think people forget. Like, you're right. It did feel like bad news after bad news, but it's not like J.J. McCarthy was guaranteed to start. But plus, and J.J. McCarthy played out of an offense where they ran the freaking air out of the football. So I don't know. Yeah. I think it would have been Sam no matter what.
Positive strides here from a Minnesota perspective. Meanwhile, a week ago on this show, I love having like a ton of different teammates that we can point to, Cam Jordan being one of those guys. Caught up with DeForest Buckner on the Off the Edge podcast. Buckner spoke about his young quarterback who impressed the entire league with that arm talent in week number 1.
You over there, you had Anthony Richardson running the gun. Tell me about it.
Oh, no, yeah, man. AR, bro. I mean, obviously, everybody knows he's physically gifted, bro. You know what I'm saying? And he's got what it takes. He's got a cannon for an arm. So, you know, he was able to, air it out a couple times on Sunday, and everybody was able to see it on full display. So it's been pretty cool to see, man, because he can hurt you with his feet, man. You know what I mean? He's like, you know, some of these multi-talented quarterbacks. So it's been challenging in practice for sure, keeping him in the pocket. But it's good for us. You know what I'm saying? It gets us ready for all those mobile quarterbacks that we got in the league.
Yeah, and there's some good ones in the NFL. Time for quick picks here. Let's actually roll with these guys. Colts and Packers. Anthony Richardson, I loved it, right? Like, it was kind of the performance that we wanted to see. We just want to see him out on the football field and healthy here. You like Indy like I do?
I do. That's a sick photo of him, too. Yeah. But between him and the fact that he's got a great run game in Jonathan Taylor, that just gives me the edge on a defense that is being reconstructed. And the good news is we aren't going to see them play on a slip and slide. So the Packers actually get some traction this week. Traction for the field, maybe not for the win, but you know they'll be able to move their feet.
Which is sort of a prerequisite to have some success on an NFL football field. Seahawks and Patriots. Look, a lot of us didn't have the Patriots winning in week number 1. I don't have them winning this game either. You're rolling with Seattle. Yeah,
but fantasy players, remember Zach Charbonnet is going to be the sub out for Kenneth Walker, who is not playing today. So the Zach Charbonnet fans, truthers, if you got him, roll with him.
All right, Giants and Commanders.
You gonna do it?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I texted, look, I rolled with the Giants last week. I was on an island. I texted you and Steve about halfway through that game, and I said, I will no longer be picking my Giants moving forward. There might be a little reverse psychology thing going here, but nonetheless, it wasn't, I can't believe it says my name and Commanders on that screen. It's just weird, but like I said, reverse psychology. You're
not allowed back in New Jersey, but I am, because I'm going with the Giants in this one. I think this is the opportunity for Daniel Jones to reverse his fate a little bit. This blitz did not work out well for him last week, but I think that this is an opportunity. Remember, the Washington defense gave up the most touchdowns against the blitz. They gave up 2 last week, but they also last season gave up the most against when blitzers. So, hey, man.
Preach, Cynthia. Preach. The G-Men, are they going to get it done?
I think they do. I mean, look, it's my least of the 16 games. It's my least confident of the winner. However, I'm going to go hard. Yes, the G-Men are going to. Anyone who doesn't believe in the Giants, this is where they're wrong. This is where Brian Daboll makes his money. Okay, I'm going to stop now because it's not that. It's 16 out of 16.
Yeah, no, I got to learn my lesson, man. Sometimes the fandom can't be enough to roll with the squad. Sunday statement. I felt good about mine. I thought it was going to happen because I had Cooper Kupp going for 150 a week ago. Didn't happen, but it was close.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. I guess Lions fan over here. What do you like here?
I think, well, first of all, Vegas, you got something wrong. You're listening to me. I don't know why you are not favoring the Rams in Arizona. I get it. They're not at home. They're on the road. But what on earth? Have you seen Matthew? Have we heard of Matthew Stafford? Baller. Jared Verse also in his rookie debut was fantastic. It's no shade to the Cardinals. They're just nowhere near where they have Matthew Stafford and this team ranked, right? Like, so Cooper Kupp, I think both he and Kyren Williams could go off and be, you could have 2 number 1 at their positions for fantasy purposes on one team in this one.
Is this an offensive line issue?
Yeah.
I mean, Avila obviously is down for the count, not going to be playing in this game. We saw a revolving door.
But if there's one team that you could get away with that for, and 2 teams that know each other so well.
Sure.
It's not the Cardinals aren't there yet with their pass rush. They're rebuilding. Jonathan Gannon, all credit to him. He's done a great job. But here's the thing. This is Matthew Stafford. This isn't like a rookie quarterback and the O-lines. This is a guy who, like, he didn't have any O-line in Detroit. No. I mean, they were standing there, but they weren't good.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned rookie quarterbacks, by the way. Bo Nix, I think, is
Bo knows.
His head is going to be spinning in a big way. My Sunday statement, TJ Watt delivering 3 sacks in the game. I think there's going to be some problems here for this team's offense. Like, they scare me, right? Like, TJ Watt is going to be on the short list by the end of the season. Maybe he's going to be winning Defensive Player of the Year. I think these guys see Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, who, by the way, is on the older side, and maybe the most, actually, I shouldn't say maybe, the most experienced college quarterback that has ever come out of the NCAA with almost 70 starts. I just think it's going to be a nightmare for him.
Let's just put it this way. I'm with you on that. Okay. My thing is I don't necessarily think it's going to be Bo Nix's fault. Number one, of course, we know Sean Payton really wants to get the ball out quickly. That is what he does. But, hey, this is going to be TJ Watt.
I know what you're going to be doing. Right, watching that new Jared Goff. Cynthia, you are the best. It's always awesome to have you. You're going to be with us next week.
Yeah.
Game day preview. It's officially now in the rearview mirror. Enjoy Game Center and all the games from week number 2.